It was past midnight when I turned off the main highway, trying to shave an hour off my long drive home. The interstate was clear, but I was exhausted, and the detour promised less traffic and more silence. The kind of silence that weighs on your ears. My car's headlights cut through the thick fog that had started rolling in. Not unusual for late autumn, but enough to blur the trees on either side of the road into ominous swaying shadows. I hadn't seen another vehicle in over 30 minutes. No gas stations, no motels. Just empty road and the occasional flicker of deer eyes reflecting in the dark. I turned up the radio just to keep my mind from drifting, but the signal was static-laced and only played old gospel hymns. That's when I saw him. At first, I thought it was just my mind playing tricks. A dark silhouette at the edge of the road, barely illuminated. He was standing still, thumb raised. A hitchhiker. I slowed down, not because I wanted to pick him up. I didn't, but because something about him felt off. He wore a long, dark coat, his head slightly bowed. No bag, no visible gear. Just him. Still, I know better than to pick up strangers in the middle of nowhere, especially after midnight. But something, I can't explain what, urged me to pull over. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was the way he didn't move. Not even when my car crept up next to him. Most hitchhikers at least wave or walk toward the vehicle. He just stood. I rolled down the passenger window halfway. "You okay, man? Need a ride?" I asked, keeping one hand on the gear stick. He slowly turned his head toward me, and I swear to God, I felt the air shift, colder, heavier. He stepped forward, and only then did I realize how tall he was. His face was pale, unnaturally so, under the headlights, and his eyes, they didn't look quite right. Dark, too dark, like they belonged to something that lived underground. He didn't say anything, just nodded once and opened the door. I hesitated, my instinct screaming at me to drive, but my mouth betrayed me. "Hop in." He did. Silently. Sat down without even adjusting the seat or buckling in. The door closed with a dull thud that echoed too long in my ears. I stared at him for a moment, waiting for him to speak. Still nothing, just that quiet breathing, steady and shallow. I pulled back onto the road. For the first few minutes, I tried to fill the silence. I told him my name, where I was headed, made some dumb joke about hoping he wasn't an axe murderer. He didn't laugh, didn't even smile. Just stared ahead, hands folded in his lap like he was waiting for something. Or someone. It was then I noticed the smell. Faint at first, damp earth, like wet leaves mixed with something else. Something metallic. Blood? Number maybe, rust. I couldn't tell. I glanced over at him, and he was still staring out the windshield, unmoving. That's when I realized something that made my skin crawl. He wasn't breathing, not anymore. And the temperature in the car had dropped at least 10 degrees since he got in. That was the moment I knew. I'd made a mistake, a big one. I tried to brush it off at first. Maybe the air conditioning had kicked in harder than I realized. Maybe I was imagining the whole thing. After all, I'd been driving for hours, and fatigue messes with your senses. But the smell kept getting stronger. Metallic, earthy, decaying. It clung to the air like invisible mold, making it hard to breathe. I turned down the AC, cracked the window slightly. Nothing helped. We drove in silence for what felt like forever, though the dashboard clock said only 8 minutes had passed. I tried talking again, just to shatter the tension. "So, where you headed?" He didn't turn, didn't blink, just said south, His voice was low, gravelly, as if he hadn't used it in years. One word, that's all I got. But it sent chills down my spine. There was something unnatural about the way it hit the air, like a vibration that didn't belong to any human throat. Okay, I said, trying to stay calm. Any place in particular? I might be able to drop you close. No one ever asks that part. I glanced at him sharply. What? But he didn't repeat it. He just kept staring ahead, hands perfectly still in his lap. My pulse quickened. I forced a laugh. Well, guess I'm the friendly type. Number. You're the curious type. He turned his head slightly toward me, and for the first time, I saw his full face under the dashboard lights. He wasn't just pale. He was gray. His skin looked like it had never seen sunlight, stretched too tightly over bones that didn't quite sit right. There were faint, thin cracks running along his cheek, like a ceramic doll someone had dropped. His lips didn't move when he spoke again. Curiosity is dangerous on these roads. I gripped the wheel tighter. Look, if this is some kind of joke. But he interrupted me. There's a fork ahead. Take the left. There's no... I stopped mid-sentence as my headlights caught an unmarked dirt road veering off the main path. It hadn't been on my GPS. It hadn't even existed a second before. I kept driving straight. You missed it, he said, and this time his voice was different, echoing, almost layered, as if someone else had spoken the same words inside my ears, from behind my eyes. I'm not going down some creepy road in the middle of nowhere, I snapped, trying to mask the rising panic. Then we'll be late. For what? His eyes met mine, and my vision blurred for a second. In that fleeting moment, I didn't see the inside of my car. I saw fire. I saw a long, endless stretch of desert with black figures walking toward the horizon, dragging chains. I saw a signpost, rusted and broken, with no words, just a symbol carved into it. A circle with a line through it, dripping. Then it was gone. Just a flash. My knuckles were white against the steering wheel. I blinked hard and looked at the road again. You okay? I asked, though I knew the question was pointless. He smiled. Finally. But it wasn't reassuring. It was hollow, like a puppet learning what smiling meant. We passed each other before, he said. Not in this skin, but I remember your eyes. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My mouth was dry and my heart was thudding so loudly it drowned out the sound of the engine. I needed to get him out of my car. Now, I think this is where I turn off, I lied. I've got a buddy's place just a mile down that side road. You don't lie well, he murmured. But I'll get out. It's almost time anyway. Relief washed over me, but it didn't last. He didn't wait for me to stop the car. He opened the door while we were still moving, slowly, but enough to cause an accident. I swerved to the side, yelling for him to wait, but he stepped out, like gravity didn't apply to him. His feet hit the pavement with no sound, no stumble. I slammed the brakes. My car skidded a little before coming to a halt. I turned back. He was already gone. No sign of him on the road. No footprints. No sound. Just fog creeping in thicker than before, swallowing everything behind me. I sat there, panting, not sure what had just happened. Was it real? Had I fallen asleep and imagined the whole thing? But then I noticed something on the passenger seat. A folded piece of paper, yellowed, old, and damp at the corners. I picked it up with trembling fingers and unfolded it. There was a photo inside. It showed a man, young, in a military jacket, standing next to a car that looked like it was from the 70s. Beside him stood the same hitchhiker I'd just dropped off, Same face, same expression, same coat. On the back of the photo, written in faded ink, was a single sentence. He always finds a ride. And below it, a date. October 31st, 1979. Exactly 46 years ago, to the day. I sat there in the driver's seat, gripping that photo like it might dissolve into ash if I let go. My breath steamed up the windshield as my mind scrambled to rationalize what I'd just experienced. There had to be some explanation. A prank, maybe? But who would go through all this trouble in the middle of nowhere at 1 a.m? My heart hadn't stopped racing since he stepped out of the car. If you could even call what he did stepping. I needed to get out of there. Fast. I tossed the photo on the passenger seat and threw the car into drive. The tires spun slightly on the damp road before catching traction. I drove faster than I should have, adrenaline numbing my exhaustion. But even as I sped away, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. Not anymore. It started with the rearview mirror. I glanced up, just for a second, and saw movement. My stomach dropped. A dark figure was sitting in the back seat. Silent, still. I slammed the brakes so hard that my seatbelt locked and my chest smacked against it. The car skidded sideways, tires screaming on the wet asphalt. I twisted around, expecting to confront someone. But the back seat was empty, totally empty. I looked again at the mirror. No one. But the interior light above the back seat was flickering, weak, struggling, like it was dying. That's when I noticed something that wasn't there before. On the inside of the windshield, right above the dashboard, smeared in a greasy, dark substance, were 5 fingerprints. Long, thin, wet, and they were on the inside. I stared at them, frozen. They were slowly sliding down the glass, as if someone had just pressed their hand there and dragged it downward. The prints didn't look like normal fingers. They were slightly off, stretched too long, as if they had extra joints. I couldn't move. Then my radio turned on. I hadn't touched it. The same old gospel hymn that had played earlier buzzed through the speakers, but it was warped, slowed down, reversed. The voice that sang it sounded nothing like a human, like it was echoing from somewhere deep underground. Words garbled, melodies decayed. Suddenly, the headlights flickered and went out. I was plunged into total darkness. I fumbled for the hazard lights, the ignition, anything, but nothing responded. My car had died. Everything, battery, lights, engine, just shut down at once. Silence filled the air again, thicker than before. Not even the wind moved. Then the knock came. 3 slow, deliberate taps on the driver's side window. I jerked to look. Nothing there. Just fog. Then it came again. Tap, tap, tap. From the other side this time. I turned my head slowly to the passenger side. And there he was. The hitchhiker. His face was inches from the window, staring in at me. Not smiling. Not blinking. Just watching. His skin looked even grayer now, like cracked clay. His eyes had gone fully black. No whites, no pupils. Just endless pits that pulled at something in my chest. I screamed and hit the door lock. It was already locked. I reached for the ignition again, slamming the keys forward. And the car turned on. Just like that. Lights, engine, everything came back to life. Even the fog seemed to thin out slightly, but the passenger side window was open. Just a few inches, and he was gone. I peeled out of there, tires screeching, not caring if I crashed or hit something. I just needed to go. The road ahead twisted and turned, but I didn't ease up. I didn't look back. I just drove, as fast as the car could take me, praying I'd find some sign of civilization. Eventually, I saw lights up ahead. A diner. Old, but open. Neon flickering in the fog, like a lighthouse for the damned. I swerved into the lot and parked crooked, jumping out before the car had fully stopped. I rushed inside, panting, wild-eyed. The waitress looked up from behind the counter and narrowed her eyes. "Another one? What?" I stammered. She walked over slowly, drying a mug with a towel. Tall man, dark coat, hitchhiking down Route 6? I nodded, unable to speak. She sighed. "You're the third this week." I stared at her, waiting for her to explain, but she just gestured to the wall behind me. There was a bulletin board covered in newspaper clippings, yellowed and brittle. Local man vanishes after picking up hitchhiker. Unsolved mystery. Phantom hitcher of Devil's Bend. Victims all saw the same man before disappearing. Photos, dozens of them. Faded pictures of smiling people, drivers, travelers, all gone. One of the photos stopped me cold. It was a man, younger than me, standing beside a familiar old sedan. And next to him, the hitchhiker, same coat, same face, same hollow eyes. I stumbled back, bile rising in my throat. "What is he?" The waitress looked me dead in the eye. "No one knows. But once you see him, once you let him in, he doesn't leave." I looked out the window, half expecting to see him standing there. Nothing. But then I realized something far worse. The photo he left in my car? It was gone.